Hey, welcome to Studio G at CMN, Community Media Network. I'm Jay Wenko, and welcome to Cooking for Candlelight. We're into our 4th episode. Believe it or not, we're still cooking. We haven't burned the place down, but I got to tell you this much. It feels like it's about 150 degrees in here, and just the way it should be. We're going to take a step across the ocean to the east and look to India for our meal today. This is going to be an interesting meal, kind of a combination of foods from the Middle East and from some of the Caribbean area. I'll tell you all about that when we proceed. Let's do that right now because we've got some food to cook and not a lot of time to do it. First thing we're going to do tonight is curried lamb. We've got some chopped up boned lamb that I took from a shoulder roast. And what I'll do here is take this nice, probably about, I'd say about 1.5 pounds of lamb, and it's chopped up. It's pretty well hand trimmed, and I'll put it right into this pressure cooker. And the reason I'm going to use a pressure cooker, as I'll explain it to you later, is that with this lamb curry, it ideally will have a real tender result that we're looking for. And the pressure cooker, of course, cooks under intense pressure, a lot of heat. The air builds up inside there. It compresses the amount of space, which of course accelerates the cooking. If you know anything about physics, probably stuff that I've long forgot. All I know is a pressure cooker can do it in a hurry. And it's really something that you shouldn't be afraid of. Pressure cookers get a bad rap as being a dangerous food preparation appliance in the kitchen. Not necessarily so. I cook everything from my mashed potatoes in there to stews, chickens. If I want to put a nice chicken soup together, why wait all day and boil a chicken? I can pressure cook it in about, well, I don't know, 40 minutes, 35 minutes, and it'll be done. I do my pea soups in that, and right today we're going to do the lamb. And I'll get that sauteing up. I'll put in some coarsely ground or coarsely chopped up garlic, which I took care of earlier. I didn't want to bore you again with chopping garlic. I've done it every episode, I think, for the past 3 shows, but this time we'll take it already prepared, dump it into the mixture, or into the lamb. And there's a couple of other things here. A little bit later on, we're going to add some tomatoes. Some chopped tomatoes, and I've got some stewed tomatoes. Why did I choose to do the two? No particular reason other than there's a little accent going on there. I've got stewed tomatoes in a can, or peeled whole tomatoes, which, you know, have a pretty soft consistency. If you had a canned tomato before, there's not a lot to it. There's not a lot of pop to it. But really, this curried lamb is going to need a fair amount of fluid and a fair amount of tomatoes. And I really didn't want to spend all day cutting up tomatoes, fresh tomatoes, as beautiful as they look this week in the market. I just didn't want to spend all that time. However, I didn't want to leave the meal with the mushiness of a canned tomato. So what I'll do is I'll add the two of them. I'll first put the stewed tomatoes in, and I'll just follow it up with some of the fresh tomatoes. And really, that's just my own choice. There's no reason why you can't be flexible like that. That's my whole mentality when I cook here for you, is try to be flexible. Take the roll with the punches. You know, if you have a change of plans, don't worry about it. Go with it. This meal here really wasn't prepared mentally until last night. I didn't even bone the lamb until about, I don't know, about an hour ago. So we'll just chop up some of these tomatoes. We can, you know, do them fairly coarse, not a big deal. And how coarse or fine you chop them. Meanwhile, this lamb's moving along slowly, but we'll take care of that without much ado. The other thing that we'll cook here tonight with the lamb is one of my favorites. It's basmati rice. If you like rice, do yourself a favor and treat yourself to some different rice. Middle Eastern rice is just totally different than the enriched white rice that you get in the supermarkets around here. This basmati rice that I brought here today happens to come in a pretty nice sack. I have to tell you, the packaging sold me on this one. It's Pakistani kernel basmati rice. And I'm going to do something. I'll probably give the bag to my daughter after I'm done with it, and she'll pack her toys or something in there, maybe make an overnight bag. And it's got a different flavor. And what we'll do today with the basmati rice, not that it isn't flavorful enough on its own, but I've got an old recipe that I just remembered last night from a friend. It was actually an old roommate of mine. His name's Hamid Bakrani. He was from Iran. And Hamid had a recipe for Persian rice. So what we're going to do is take this rice, and it's a 2-to-1 ratio from water to rice, just as you typically find with your rice at home. I've got the water, fortunately, already boiling. Pop it in there. Give it a good stir so we don't get any rice stuck to the bottom right off the bat. And the trick to this Persian rice, there are two tricks. The first trick is we add whole cloves. When's the last time you ever had a whole clove in your rice? It sounds strange, I know. But what I've got here is about 2 pinches of whole cloves, maybe about 3 dozen of them. And I don't know if I'll use all that many. Maybe a dozen or maybe 15 or 20 of them. Pop them right into the water, and we'll let that cook just like we do with typical American style rice. Okay, the lamb is cooking, starting to, I wouldn't say exactly brown up, but it's starting to cook up a little bit. Trying to be honest with you, here at Studio G, we do not have the Maytag super kitchen here. This is a twin burner. I don't even know who makes this thing, but it gets by. It's done everything well so far. What else we will add to this curry? Obviously curry flavoring. I picked this up at a Middle Eastern market. It was actually an Indian market recently, and it's called Patak's Original Mild Curry Paste. It's the first time I've purchased this. I'm one to try new things. And this particular sauce will, I guess from what it says, in a few tablespoons really add enough of the flavor that we're looking for to make it a successful meal. I tried a little bit of it. I tasted it. It's agreeable. Doesn't taste foul. So it's going to make the meal today. The other thing, onions. Moving right along here, we've got some pre-chopped up onions. I'll put that right in here with the lamb. We'll cook that up. And let's see, along with that garlic, onions, just for a little bit of texture change and a little bit of sweetness, I'll throw in some carrots. I don't know, do you think about carrots as being a sweet alternative for a vegetable? These carrots will cook up along with that lamb really in a pretty quick fashion. Okay, get all that in there. I'd say that's probably about a cup and a half or 2 cups of carrots. Heck, I'll throw in another one, make it a rounded 2 cups. Don't have to worry about how much you're going to put in there. I'll throw the tomatoes in. I didn't literally mean throw, but that one didn't make it. We'll give it a stir. And I'll throw in the canned tomatoes. In fact, I'll put in both cans. I've got 2 cans ready. Might as well use them. Now, where this particular curry dish deviates from the traditional Indian curry is in the area of sweetness. I've been educated enough to know that there are different types of curry. It's like different types of beer. You know, if you go to England, you're likely to find a stout or a pale ale. You know, if you're in Mexico, you might find a much lighter pilsner or something like that. There are different curries and really different flavors that go along with the name curry. For instance, if you're in the Middle East, you might expect a real pungent flavored curry that's a little on the spicy side, has a deep cumin or coriander flavor, or turmeric, all these things mixed together. I brought the seasonings along. I won't use them individually because I have all the ingredients integrated into this paste. If you go to Thailand or in the Indonesian area, you might find some different type of curry. For instance, if you had some curried rice noodles, it has a different flavor. It's called curry, but it has a slightly different flavor to it. Then if you move to the Caribbean, you find a sweeter curry there because, well, they're in the tropics and they grow a lot of fruits and they tend to incorporate some of the sweeter flavors into it, and that's the one I tend to like the most. So I've got a couple of ingredients. I'll whip out one surprise a little bit later, but what I will throw into this, just after we come back from a break, will be some mangoes. My favorite fruit, without question. The Indians call it the king of fruits. I couldn't agree more. It's a fantastic fruit, and it's surprising that a lot of Americans have never tried a mango. Right now, you're at the peak of the season. If you go to the market and check it out, you're liable to find mangoes for under $1, which is a good price. They yield a fair amount of fruit, probably close to 3 cups or 2.5 cups of fruit per item. And they're roughly the size of a baseball or a softball. They're varying breeds, if you will, of mangoes, and they come in smaller or larger sizes. But it's a wonderful fruit, has a slight resemblance to, say, a melon in texture, has a pear flavor to it, something of a peach, kind of a blend. You just have to go out and try one. It's outstanding. Right now, I'll put the cap on this pressure cooker. That's the important part. It's important that you put it on right. That's where we get the problems and the bad rap for pressure cookers. First of all, if you notice, the pressure cooker has a rubber seal, rubber gasket. It's important to make sure that that is in place. If you've omitted the rubber gasket, you're in for some trouble. First of all, the steam's going to get out and your meal probably won't cook in the time that you think it will. And second of all, you don't have a secure fit with the lid. We'll put this on here. We'll make sure it locks in nice and tight. No problem there. We've got that cooking. It's only a matter of minutes before the pressure begins to build inside there. It'll start to boil. It'll break down those meats and make them really tender. It'll cook the carrots right through, and it'll cook those onions, and what we're going to have is a wonderful flavor. And I almost forgot the curry paste. That's okay. If I didn't have curry paste in there, I wouldn't have much curry, would I? I'll take about two and a half tablespoons of this curry paste in here. And it's got oil. The ingredients, I could read to you here. Probably, I'm sure it's got coriander and salt, cumin, turmeric, chili, water, tomato puree, garlic, and some other seasonings. Anyways, I'll put that in there, give it a good stir before we cover it up. Notice, now I'll tell you the truth, I took that cover off, but be careful if you've had this thing cooking for any length of time. If you notice, that was about 30 seconds. I know this wasn't boiling hot. If it had been hotter, if I had been letting this cook longer, under no condition would I have opened that lid. It just wouldn't have been safe, and the thing probably would have ended up somewhere up in the ceiling. It would have blown out this fluorescent light above me, and we would have finished the show a little early tonight. Anyhow, we'll let this cook. I think that smells about right. Get the cover back on here. Give it one last look. Make sure I haven't forgotten anything. I'll throw a little water in just to give it a little extra juice to cook in. Now we'll pop the top on. We've got our rice that is currently on simmer or low. That's where we want it after it's boiled initially and we have the rice in there. We lower the heat down. We'll cook that about 15 minutes. And I'll tell you a little secret about that when we come back. So far, so good. Join us when we come back. Hey, welcome back to Cooking for Candlelight. Once again, we're cooking curry, and we're halfway through our journey to the Middle East. Our curry is starting to get a little pressured under the pressure cooker. Our Persian rice is nearly done, and right at this point, the next thing we'll do is add the little trick I told you about with the Persian rice. My old friend Hamid Bakrani told me about this, and what we do is we create a little hole in the middle of this pot of rice, pour a little olive oil right down the center of it. I'm saying probably about a quarter cup. And this is toward the end, like 12 minutes. At this point, you know, we're very close to being done with the rice. And one thing you won't believe, he actually takes a piece of newspaper, covers the pan up. I've used the funnies just because this is a pretty funny recipe. And you just jam the cover right in there. Now, I didn't tell anybody about this, so I bet half the production crew right now is saying, what the heck is that? Yeah, newspaper, or you can use paper. What it's going to do is take out the last bits of moisture in there, and it's going to crisp the bottom of the rice, we hope. It's been a while since I've made it, probably 10 years. So it's a good time to resurrect that recipe. Let the lamb cook as it is, and now we'll add a little side dish to the plate, which would be something to offer a contrasting flavor. We've got the curry, which is warm. It's going to be mildly spicy. The rice, which is a real staple. It's going to be full-bodied. It's going to fill us up. And then we'll have something just to contrast on the cool side, which will sort of create some relief on the palate. It's going to be a chilled cucumber salad with yogurt and some mint, a little bit of garlic, and we'll create that. I've actually got a dish already made for the crew here to share, but I'll show you just basically what we're going to do. I have my handy-dandy peeler. This is the best peeler in the world, I guarantee it. It's from Germany. This thing will take apart just about anything as fast as you can imagine. But I'll go ahead and peel the cucumber. We'll take the cucumber, remove the seeds, which really kind of sop up the dish. It makes it too soupy. The seeds would make it too wet and sloppy, and we'll just take the inside out, and how we'll do that. Real simple way. You could do this at home. It's also A lot of people like to do this with their salads. You know, if you slice up a cucumber in your salad, a lot of times you'll find that you get a lot of seeds in it and it gets sloppy. Just take your spoon, usually a teaspoon. In this case, it's a tablespoon, doesn't matter really what spoon, and take it right down the middle, hold it, kind of curve it to the side and pull out the seeds. Just kind of make a boat out of it. So I've seen stuffed cucumber with some breading, some crab meat breading. You can do this, fill it up with stuffing, bake it in the oven for a short period of time. That's a nice recipe. In this case, we're just going to take them out and slice them. Actually, I'll just use the same peeler to go ahead and peel small pieces. The thinner pieces will tend to soak up the yogurt and the other flavorings. Now you really don't need to see this, but the yogurt, by the way, I got from a Middle Eastern market as well. It's a real staple. They use it an awful lot in various things. This, I was told, is a real traditional Middle Eastern dish from Greece to Turkey to the Arab countries as well, and into India. So it's not just an Indian dish, although I've had it in an Indian restaurant. I've even had it in Hamtramck. So I forget the name of that, but it's a Polish dish with dill as the herb. In this case, we'll use mint. I suppose the difference came from perhaps what grew most commonly in that area. The rice is just about done, and what that paper is doing, like I said, is just absorbing that last bit of moisture. You hear the pressure cooker slowly starting to get rattled. How can you tell if a pressure cooker is performing right? Well, the top has a little weighted cap, if you can see it right here in the top, and in front of that is a valve, a red buttoned valve. The red button is a release valve. It makes sure that you don't have too much pressure in there. And the cap, this weighted part right here, when it gets going, it rocks. It'll rock like that, and the steam will come off, and that's when you know things are boiling inside. And another good thing about the pressure cooker, although you don't commonly think about it, is that it uses less heat, less energy to cook at the same temperature. So you can really cook it at medium or medium high and get the same heat as you would turning it on full bore. In fact, you probably don't want to have the pressure cooker on full force. You just want to keep an eye on it. I want to make sure it doesn't get too violent. Okay, we'll take this yogurt. It's just plain yogurt. It's authentic Middle East yogurt. Take a couple of good-sized dollops of it. Spoon it into here. We'll add a little bit of water. While you were off camera, I threw in a little bit of garlic there when you're looking the other way. I can say that, can't I? Mix it up. And we'll add a little mint. All right, just a pinch. This is dried. It's sold bulk in the Middle Eastern store. Sprinkle it right in there. I wouldn't put too much in, but a couple of pinches just won't hurt it. And the best thing to do with this really would be to let it sit in the refrigerator, maybe for an hour or so. Let the flavors kind of fuse together. And that should taste nice, maybe a dash of salt. And that'll make a nice contrast to the rest of the meal, which I said will be warm and heavy. Okay, now we're just about at the second stage of break in the program. I think when we come back, this food will be ready to serve. Our rice is certainly going to be ready. The pressure cooker's got a little catching up to do. We'll allow the screen to come up and give you some ingredients for you to copy down should you be interested. And when we come back, the curry will be ready. We'll serve it on the plate, and to serve in a glass, something refreshing we'll be drinking tonight. Not wine like we usually do, but something a little tropical, cold, refreshing. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hope you enjoy the rest of the show. Hi, welcome back to Cooking for Candlelight, and I really mean cooking. It feels like Bangladesh or New Delhi in the middle of summer in here. It's hot. We do not have air conditioning back here, and in front of this, it's sweltering. You missed all the action on the pressure cooker. It got real hot, and it started to rattle while we were away on that break. Hope you had a chance to copy down the ingredients. But right now, what happened was I took it off into the big drum tub sink that we have, and I poured cold water on top of the pressure cooker to make sure that all the excess pressure had been relieved out of it. And the way you can tell is you hear it finally give a last exhaust of psst, and it's finished. Just carefully untwist the lid to the way of releasing it, and you lift it off. And it's really, even after you've taken out the heat by putting it under cold water, this pressure cooker will still be boiling for quite a while after that. And I'm telling you, it's really hot. Now, I'm taking a look at this right now, and I'd like to see it a little thicker than this. I can tell that the meat's well cooked. It's going to be very tender. The carrots are cooked. The tomatoes have all, fused in there properly. What I've got here just as a standby is a little flour, and I'll take that flour. I'll sprinkle a little bit of it in there. No real art or science to this. Just sprinkle it in. Yeah, if you want to be real careful about it, you can use a flour sifter, or you can melt it up into some gravy on the side. Typically, you don't want to throw it into boiling water because you get dumplings. So I was a little careless in that, and I've got little dumplings amidst some flour that's going to eventually thicken this up. Not really worried about it. Another good thickener is cornstarch. A lot of times I prefer to work with cornstarch because I don't know why, it's a personal preference. I worked in a Chinese restaurant for a while, and they use cornstarch extensively in their thickening. It's just a personal taste. How you'd work it, or how I typically do it, is I would take the cornstarch and add some water, or if I was thickening like a brown sauce or something, I would take that gravy and pour a portion of it into the cornstarch and mix it around until it became like Elmer's glue consistency. Get your liquid flowing and spinning, and just pour it in there and slowly stir it around, and that really thickens up your material. Now this is really getting good. It's pretty well thickened. I'll just add just a little bit more. And the other thing that I wanted to add, and this was the part that I mentioned earlier in the show about blending the Middle Eastern curry with the Caribbean curry, was the mango. I've cut up some mangoes here. Wonderful fruit. I'll just throw some in there. Now notice I'm putting these towards the end of the meal, or towards the end of the preparation of the curry, because I don't want it to just totally melt away. I'd like it to retain some form, so that when we're having it at our dinner, you can sense which part is a mango and which is a tomato. Because it won't take very long for these things to disintegrate, so I put them in toward the end. The other thing is, and this is really important, is a coconut cream. I don't know if they call it coconut cream. It's called, in this case, this is a product called Coco Casa. It's a cream of coconut. Basically, it's a sweetened derivative of a fresh coconut, and it's really sweet. It's what you use to make pina coladas. I'll take a healthy tablespoon, one of these scooper spoons here, drizzle that right in there, and I will stir this around, and it's going to change the flavor, the total experience on your tongue of this curry. What did I put in there? About maybe 3/4 of a cup of the cream of coconut. Truthfully, I don't know how much I should have put in, but I'll try it a little later and see if I should have put in more. I don't know if we'll have time to do that right here. But anyhow, this will stir up. It'll add a sweetness to it. I think we'll really enjoy that. That's pretty well set. The rice, that's done. We could take that right off the burner. In fact, why don't we go ahead and begin to serve up our plates so we can move on to the exciting beverage portion of the evening. I'll take our serving plates here, dust off a little flour that ended up there on the plate. And let's see here if we can't serve up our Persian rice. Notice the paper, the comics that we put on there is pretty saturated. It's really damp inside, and you could tell it's absorbed a lot of the moisture that we had planned on. You get a strong smell of clove, which is what we expected. The rice is a real firm texture. It kind of breaks apart. It's flaky. You've got a couple options of how to serve this. You can either pour the curry mixture right over the rice. A lot of people like to do that. or I can do it on the side. I think I'll pour it right on the side here, or pour it right on the front, on top of the rice. Okay, and we'll add the cucumber mix. Cucumber with mint and yogurt. And really sets it off. Isn't that a beautiful, colorful meal? It's got beautiful contrast. You know, I like the presentation of a meal as much as anything else. We've got that much taken care of. Let's move quickly right into doing the beverage section. We don't have a lot of time here. How much time do we have, crew? About 4 minutes? We can do it. Nothing like a little pressure. We've got some ice. First thing I want to do in this blender is get some ice in there. And in the tropical fruit category, not that much ice. Okay. In the tropical fruit category, we have, once again, mangoes. We'll take some mango pieces here. We'll drop them right in. We've got some papaya. These are Mirasol papayas. I've used my last clean spoon. No, I didn't. I've got this coconut cream. I'll pour a little bit of that in here. Follow me along. This is going to be great. Throw a little of that coconut cream in there. Take the papaya, bring it right over in here with this spoon, scoop out a nice piece. Papaya is a great digestive fruit. There's an enzyme in papaya that aids in digestion. You might have heard of papain or papes. These are, hey, this is a great fruit to serve along with this meal. Help your guests digest the meal properly, whatever that means. Throw a banana in. I know I'm into that proper digestion thing, so. Oh boy, we're looking good here. Throw a little orange juice. Don't forget to put the lid on before you. Yeah, I'd like to mention, by the way, our Cooking for Candlelight theme here, if you can hear me, is of course the candles. And today we've got some very symbolic candles from the American Cancer Society. They're holding a fundraising event July 17th and 18th up in Rochester at Adams High, and we'll be supporting them as best as we can from here at Community Media Network. If you can at all, join in the activities there and help them raise a few bucks for the research that they so deservingly need. And let's whip this up after I plug it in. How's that for candid camera? Whoa! Anyways, if you can still hear me, I would recommend serving this meal with a couple pieces of pita bread. I'll let that take care of itself. Take your pita bread if you like. You can keep it in the oven and warm it up. Basically, serve it as a bread to help sop up a lot of the ingredients. It's been a pleasure joining you, or having you join me here in the studio again. We've got some wonderful guests here in the audience. We've got some great crew members: Dave O'Bear, Jerry Williams, Jerry Kunith, Jan Williams, Keith Hillock in the loft cam, and you, my guest, here in Studio G. Thanks for joining us for Cooking for Candlelight. I'm Jay Wenko. Join us again next time. Good night.